Back at it again. All right, seeing the place to be. Rick Serritella with Dan Orlando for another edition of New in Blue, a New York Giants podcast, where we primarily focus on the new Big Blue impact performers. But we're going to recap the Week 1 loss against the Washington Commanders, 21-6 defeat there, Dan. We'll get right into it. I mean, initial thoughts and impressions from you.
Yeah, you said the impact new performers. There's one we'll talk about, but not a great impact by most of them. So we got plenty of stuff to go over. But just as a whole, watching this team, I think the hope for most rational Giants fans was that, hey, maybe we don't win a ton of games this year, but if we can show progress, if we can look like we're out there and we belong, and it's just a matter of the fact that we got a really tough schedule and we've got some growing pains, then we'll take that. We got to show progress. This has just looked like the same crap, not just Dable and Shane, not just the coaching staff before them. This is the same stuff we've seen since 2012's opener, and it's getting tiresome if you're a Giants fan.
Yeah, and I don't know where to point the finger at here, Dan, because you can change the faces, but the results remain the same. You can interchange the offensive line. You can bring new folks in there. You got your former quarterback lighting it up, looking like Joe Namath over there with the Indianapolis Colts. Change the veteran quarterback, you get the same results. Malik Neighbors not happy with the performance. And when you have an elite player and he's looking around saying, what the heck is going on here? You can't get me the ball. We can't execute. He wants other players to elevate to his level, but the problem is there are no cornerstone players on this Giants offense, at least, and we saw that. They had no traction. The offensive line was terrible. It was atrocious, actually. They couldn't have any ground game attack. They didn't even play Cam Scatterbo. They have no playmakers at the wide receiver position. And, listen, we're talking about new impact players. Throw the kid in there. Jackson Dart, it's time. I know you disagree. We're going to talk about it because I understand, and I'm not one to hit the panic. I'm not panicking over 1 week. Mm-hmm. I'm saying Russell Wilson is a 14-year veteran who since 2021 has started 66 games and won 23 of them. He's a below average quarterback. He's 23-33. And if you play out the string with Russell Wilson, or you play him out here in Dallas, or you play him after that in Kansas City, you're going to lose, and you're not going to be a playoff team. I think you put the kid in there now, so that way, let him face Dallas this week, because then there are no easy games. It's Kansas City. You get the Saints in week 5, then you get the Eagles 2 out of 3 weeks. I mean, there's no easy games on the schedule. Play Dart now so that he can win games for you later. And this is a situation where Wilson just isn't that good. And Dart actually fits this offense better when you talk about a terrible offensive line with no time to protect. He can actually extend plays with his athleticism, and he's tall. He's about 3 inches taller than Russell Wilson because you got the offensive line being pushed back. Wilson can't even see. He can't get the ball off. He's just not a good quarterback at this stage of the game, Dan.
I agree with you on those points. I think, if you have, and obviously we're going to disagree a little bit about when Dart should start, but when you have Russell Wilson, part of the rationale to have him start is, A, you don't want to rush Dart before he's ready, which is fine. But also, if this is someone that's good enough, even if he's not what he was in 2012 through 2016, 17, if he's good enough to overcome some of the deficiencies on the offense, well, then, look, it makes sense to play him for as long as possible. In fact, that's what they did in 2004 with Kurt Warner. He had 4 or 5 games where he looked really
Is he good enough, though? I didn't see that.
Yes, and he showed that on Sunday. This is a guy that even when he was completing passes, they looked like they were the receivers really pulling in the catch more than it was Russ finding his person. And he got, he was the victim of some drops. He had a horrible offensive line play, but he did not elevate the game beyond that. In fact, it looked like he was getting bailed out on some of those completions. This is a guy that completely missed an opportunity during their 7 opportunities from first and goal, from that goal line situation. He missed an opportunity to run into the end zone. He missed reads in other places. He got a ball deflected when he had, I believe it was Neighbors open. So Russ is not elevating the team. My argument for waiting on Dart is more, I would like to see him go against the Saints first and let him have a game that, for lack of a better term, a little bit easier before he jumps into the harder defenses, just to, build the confidence a little bit. But I do see, like, hey, if you have him just struggle a little bit against Dallas now, maybe struggle against the Chiefs and the Chargers.
Well, that's the thing. Well, that's the thing, though, Dan, because
Yeah.
outside of the Saints, there are no easy games. Like,
Yeah.
Dallas is the easy game.
Yeah.
This is the easy game. This is the game where you should see Jackson Dart, because after this, it's Kansas City, it's the LA Chargers, it's the Philadelphia Eagles, it's the Denver Broncos, it's back to the Eagles. Like, there are no easy games on this schedule. That's what my point is. Like, throw them in there now and find out what you got, because you're not going to win a ball game. You're not going to win. Like, Dallas has got wide receivers flying all over the field, making big plays. No way in hell is that offense that I saw on Sunday going to compete with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens with Russell Wilson at quarterback. At least Jackson Dart gives you some upside. It gives you excitement. He'll rejuvenate the team. The players are dead on the sideline. Like, Malik Neighbors has got a point. I'm actually with him for just being able to get on these people for not being able to execute. And, like, what are you doing with the quarterback position? I mean, are you kidding me? Like, you actually went backwards. I hate to say it. Like, Daniel Jones is actually a better starting quarterback. Like, neither one of these guys should be starting in the NFL. That's the problem. But you actually went backwards at the quarterback position. Now you're holding back on Jackson Dart. Like, you have a package ready for him to go. You didn't put him in the game. You couldn't get nothing going on the offense. What are we doing with Cam Scatterbo? He comes in and runs people over, and then we just put him back on ice. Like, the personnel needs to change, and that's the biggest problem. And I know you want to talk about the offensive line. Go ahead, Dan.
Sure. And that's part of my concern. So that's a perfect segue. You put Dart back there, and if he's running for his life the entire game, and I get he brings that mobility that might offset some of the offensive line struggles, the other side of that coin is you'd like to see him out there with a somewhat competent line to get his feet under him. But I do see what you're saying, and I do see the benefit of him, at least having trial by fire and having to pick himself up. I'll also say this real quick before I get to just the offensive line. He is the second quarterback, for anybody who wasn't aware. It's not Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston was the emergency quarterback. So what that means, Russ has already been named the starter for Sunday. I know, Rick obviously feels they shouldn't be the case. I'm kind of more on the other camp. But if something should happen to Wilson, or if Wilson is struggling, the guy who comes in to start the third quarter, should let they yank him, will be Dart if they follow last year's procedure. So Dart's coming. It's just a matter of a couple of weeks. Now, the offensive line. No Andrew Thomas. Obviously, that's going to be a blow. And we talked last week about the fact that that's great that Andrew Thomas is this all-world tackle. He doesn't play, so why does it matter? James Hudson, new Giant addition, brought in to get the Giants through a couple games without Andrew Thomas, really struggled. I think he had 4 pressures. Just by watching the broadcast, you could see that he was often just slowing down defenders. He wasn't stopping them from ruining the play. He was typically being pushed back towards the quarterback on most snaps. Not going to get it done. It's not just on him. The interior of the line looked absolutely terrible. No run game, no pass protection. Like, at what point do the Giants, they've thrown assets at the offensive line? Why can't we get this going? I just don't understand it. And it's an issue. It's like it's the Bermuda Triangle for offensive playmakers.
They're throwing assets there, but, like, at the end of the day, if any of these guys were on any of the other 53-man rosters around the league, I think they're all backups. That's the problem. Like, none of these guys.
Illuminor's starting, but the 4 that were out there with him on Sunday would not be.
They should not be starting. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. And in fact, like, they have no confidence in their backups, because I saw all 5 starters played all 68 plays. So they even sub anybody out.
No,
they don't even have confidence in the depth.
One thing I do think they would consider, but knowing them, they might not pull the trigger as fast. Although, again, they're hard to predict because they're so all over the place. You could move Illuminor if Thomas isn't going to be ready this Sunday, which my gut says no. But if you move Illuminor over to left tackle, you should get some more competent play there. And then you can have Bo come in at right tackle and probably give you some stability there. Maybe not what Illuminor would give you, but overall, on the whole, the sum is greater than the parts. So that is something I would think they'd consider. But yeah, I mean, the interior of this line, John Michael Schmitz was a second-round pick, and he looks like a fifth-round pick. And Runyon Jr. is just, he's nothing. So this has really been disappointing to see.
All three of them, Van Roten too. They don't deserve to be starting in the National Football League, and that's the bottom line. Dan Orlando, Rick Serritella, talking about the running back rotation, like Tyrone Tracy, 50 reps, Devin Singletary, 10 reps, Cam Scatterboot, 8 reps.
Yeah.
They don't want to play rookies. Even Bo Collins, 2 snaps on offense. Now he did have 9 reps on special teams, and we'll talk about Abdul Carter, but like, again, Mabo, Scatterboot, Collins, these are igniters. These are fire starters. Yeah. We all know it. Why doesn't Brian Daboll know it?
Well, he did try to throw to Bo on first and goal because that was apparently a good idea. But he had him slide out as like a jumbo tight end. Makes no sense, but whatever. And then also, look, you had that meme-worthy moment where Bo got knocked back into Scatterbo, who maybe would have gotten finally a touchdown for the Giants on one of those goal situations. The reality is, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I saw more out of Scatterbo than I saw out of any of the other running backs on Sunday. I think he's someone the Giants should be giving more run. I think with the way the offensive line played, why not let Bo come in and be one of the starting tackles? If that means moving Illuminor over, there's some out there who go, look, he wants to play one position. He wants to be a right tackle. I have news for you. This is a contract year for Jermaine Illuminor. He wants to make big time money. If he can hold his own at left tackle, his price tag goes up in 2026. So I think you could talk him into it.
All right, Dan Orlando, Rick Serritella, New in Blue, a New York Giants podcast. We're here live each and every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Let's switch it up to the defensive side of the ball, Dan. And I mentioned Abdul Carter. He really made his impact felt on special teams with that blocked punt there. But what were your thoughts and impressions from this pass rushing unit?
So this is the one bright spot of the game. And honestly, they weren't phenomenal. They were just good. And I'm going to say that's an A- instead of an A, just because that's the Giants' strength, number one, and it's supposed to be one of the best in the league. Obviously, Brian Burns had a very good game. Kayvon Thibodeau also saw more out of him. Saw some areas where, if they had just gotten to Jaden Daniels a little bit earlier, that would have been nice. But Carter, I'm going to do a little bit of a compliment sandwich here. We've said some good things, so I'm going to put Carter off to it for a quick second. Dexter Lawrence, as part of this pass rush, didn't really do much. Didn't really have the impact we hoped he'd have. Very disappointing. So that's just something worth noting. You get to Abdul Carter. This is the brightest spot of the game for the Giants. This is a guy who came in. He disrupted. He had a piece of a sack, in there. He didn't get his own solo sack yet. We're still waiting on that. But to come in and disrupt 2 punts, I mean, he almost had a block, and then he got a piece of a punt. That's impressive. He had an impressive showing as a rookie. He showed fire. He showed leadership and composure after the game when he was being interviewed. If you're looking for something positive in this game, the Giants' pass rush looks strong. Abdul Carter looks like the real deal. But I am going to say here right now, and the pass rush is part of this, the Giants had, I believe it was 10 situations where they had the opponent between 2nd and 10 and longer, and they averaged giving up 15 yards per play in those situations. The reality is, they just let Jaden Daniels and co. run wild on them when they should have just been taking them off the field. And that's unacceptable. I mean, you have an offense that can barely score, so your defense needs to be perfect. And unfortunately for the Giants, they're very soft in the secondary, and that really showed on Sunday.
Well, speaking of the secondary, they're going to have their hands full, like I said, against Dallas, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. We saw the Eagles cornerback struggle. I mean, this Dallas team is capable of putting up points.
Yeah.
Just kind of looking ahead next week. I mean, this is going to be another troublesome matchup.
It absolutely is. I mean, even if CeeDee Lamb drops 3 or 4 balls, they should have a good outing, the Dallas Cowboys. We both talked last week, like, hey, does Dallas unravel here? They just traded away their best player. They've had a kind of a rocky offseason. Dak Prescott's always, it's kind of been polarizing the past couple of years with him. They look good. I feel they played a solid game against the Eagles. Granted, the Eagles' best defensive player wasn't on the field because of stupidity on both sides of the ball there. But ultimately, Dallas looks good. They look like a team that should easily beat the Giants. again, the Giants defense, even if the pass rush plays very well, you need the linebackers who look terrible. You need the secondary who looked okay at times and terrible at others to play well. I expect Dallas to put up lots of points. And what did the Giants offense show you last week that makes you think, or I should say yesterday, not last week, that makes you think that they can keep up with that? Absolutely nothing. So, look, if they do get Jackson Dart in there by the third quarter, I think there might be some exciting plays. But ultimately, this is going to be a loss for the Giants, and it's sad to say that on a Monday before week 2.
All right, looking at the injury report, I guess Micah McFadden is the big concern here. I know he was getting an MRI today. Brian Daboll said he didn't break his leg. Jordan Reynon said he believes it's more of a foot injury, but this is just more bad news for the Giants. What are you hearing?
So, I mean, again, similar reports. I'd be shocked if he plays on this quick of a turnaround, but ultimately, look, I think McFadden's a solid player, but the bigger problem in the middle is Bobby Okereke. I mean, he was brought in to be a top piece of that defense. He's a captain this year. Obviously, his 2023, his first year with the Giants, was phenomenal. He didn't miss a snap, and he played very well. But last year in Shane Bowen's defense, and again, Shane Bowen's kind of questionable why he's still here, he really struggled, and I think a lot of people were willing to at least say, hey, it's the first year in a new system. He just had an off year. Maybe he was banged up. Yesterday, he looked absolutely terrible. He gave up a crucial second and very long, got beat twice on the same play. So that's honestly, look, McFadden's a good player. I don't think bringing him back, if he was able to get healthy by Sunday, changes the scenario. Really, all it tells me is that we're going to be talking about in a couple of months that linebacker is yet another position that the Giants need to be shoring up during the offseason. And it just seems like it never ends because we have more holes than we fill year after year.
Outside of pass rush, I mean, the team needs everything.
Everything. Again, you were supposed to come out of Sunday going, man, we at least we have our cornerback one. And he had a decent game, but we have our cornerback one. We got our safety. Giving up McKinney was a mistake, but we got Holland. He got beat. He had a bad play that was pretty crucial. You were supposed to feel better about that offensive line, that at least they'd be competent. Maybe not all world, but competent. You're supposed to feel like you had a competent quarterback. You're supposed to feel like you had a run game, that you had a good tight end in Theo Johnson, who was absolutely terrible. And you know who actually did come up big when his number was called? Daniel Bellinger, the guy that the Giants are just hell-bent on trying to push down the depth chart. You just come out of Sunday going, other than the pass rush, what the hell has been fixed? And right now, nothing.
All right, Dan Orlando, Rick Serritella, you're tuned in to New and Blue. It's a New York Giants podcast. We're here each and every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we also just launched the All Access Football Daily Show last week. It's our second week of live programming. We got a jam-packed lineup for you coming up this week. Emory Hunt on Tuesday from CBS Sports. We're going to have my guy Craig Haley from FCS, the analyst, on Wednesday, breaking down some small school prospects. Eric Edholm from NFL.com on Thursday, followed by Austin Brooks, the Georgia Bulldogs insider, on Friday, and Russell Landy coming at you Saturday for our college football pregame show. Of course, NFL pick'em around the league. I was 10-5 against the spread this week, Dan. Not too shabby. We got the Monday Night Football affair, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about some Big Blue expectations. Also, what are the expectations for these NFC East teams now that we've had a chance to take a glimpse and take a look at them? And again, the All Access Football Daily Show airs daily, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to give you a sneak peek preview of that right now. We'll be back right after this. Hey, RIC and a place to be. Rick Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world-famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world-famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL will be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Rick Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. Back at it again. All right, the place to be, Rick Serritella. Tell me like it is. When it comes to the NFL draft, everything football and everything Big Blue with Dan Orlando, it is New and Blue, a New York Giants podcast. We're here each and every Monday night, live 7 p.m. Eastern, Dan. And, you know, we got a chance now to see the Giants' first impressions. We got a first up-close look at those Commanders. We also saw the Eagles and the Cowboys in prime time kicking off the NFL season. Let's talk about expectations, starting with the Big Blue wrecking crew. And I thought, like, the high watermark might have been 9 games coming into the season. I'm going to lower the expectations just a little bit to maybe like 7. They might be able to get to 7 and 10, somewhere in that area if everything goes well. And that's a big if.
Yeah.
And I think it really depends on when they make the switch. I really do believe Jackson Dart has more upside. I hate to say it, but that's just how I feel at this stage. But what are the expectations? What is a good season right now for Giants fans after this week 1 loss 21-6 to the Washington Commanders?
I think a good season, if you're a Giants fan, and I hate to say it, is, look, can we see Jackson Dart come in and look like he has promise? Can we say Marcus Bowe look like a quality starting lineman in the making, you know, once he gets his time? Same with Cam Scatterbo. Like, are we seeing these rookies look like foundational pieces for the future that might not be reflected in the win column? Look, if Jackson Dart comes in, and I do agree with you, I think he is better suited for the offense than Russell Wilson. If he can come in and after he gets his feet wet and figures out what's going on, which might take a little bit, and he's able to get them to a good spot, and he brings, again, he's mobile. He's been keeping his eyes downfield when the rush comes, something Russ did not do yesterday. You know, then maybe, yeah, you do get 6-7 wins. I also think, like, hey, week 1, everyone's a little rusty, so they're probably a little bit better than they showed. So I think it's possible, but a lot has to go right. Like, them winning 7 games is like saying the Packers win 15. And I think that's just the reality. So, you know, look, I think a good season, if you're a Giants fan, if Jackson Dart can come in and look like the quarterback of the future, be happy in that and start looking towards next year. If he's a disaster, well, I can tell you one thing you can at least be excited about. If he's a disaster, Brian Dable and Joe Shane are not going to be here. He's their only reason to keep them around right now.
That's interesting, Dan. So it doesn't necessarily matter in the win-loss column, but you think Shane and Dayball's destiny is tied to the fate of Jackson Dart, whether or not he succeeds.
It wasn't always the case. If they have a season where they look like they did yesterday for 80% of the season, then yes. If they finish with 5, 6 wins, but most of those wins are against good teams, or most of those losses are, against good teams, and they're playing competent, competitive football, then, maybe Dable and Shane get that benefit of the doubt. They're willing to count this fourth year as really the first or second year, a do-over with the same team. But if they look like they're playing a different sport than like last night, if you were watching the Bills and the Ravens, they're playing a different sport than the New York Giants are. So if that's how they look for the entire season, the only reason to keep those guys around is for continuity with Jackson Dart, because you run into a problem now when you do take a first round quarterback and then you get rid of the front office that drafted him. The person you're bringing in to interview might go, look, you guys just had a terrible season. This looks like right now it's going to be a quarterback heavy draft at the top. It looks like it, and things can change. So they're going to want their own guy, unless they're absolutely blown away by Jackson Dart, where they feel like they just, got this lucky break that they get to take over a team as a coach or a GM that has him. But most likely they're going to want their own guy. So what do? Do you hire the best interview, even if they don't like the first round quarterback you just took? Do you take the guy that you feel like is most likely to just keep Jackson Dart and is going to be a yes man? That leads to a lot of problems. It leads to these divided situations that just keep things on going. If Jackson Dart is very good, or if he shows potential, if he looks like a guy that by next year is going to be a difference maker, they almost have to keep Dable and Shane. So that is going to get really interesting if the rest of the team's a disaster.
Which is why I think you should find out sooner rather than later. But we're not inside the facility. Yeah. So, only Brian Daboll knows best, I suppose, when Jackson Dart will be ready. I think what hurts them, though, is like Daniel Jones just had the best game of his football career.
They can't catch a break. They really can't.
And like Saquon Barkley, you had this guy on your roster and didn't realize like he's a franchise talent, because even when he was here, like they came nowhere even close to the way the Eagles maximized his talents. Like,
yeah, honestly, I'm on the other side of the Barkley thing, not because I don't think he's a great talent or that he would make this team better. I think, before, when he was with the Giants, I think like every year he was with the Giants, he was always in the mid or lower 20s in terms of like he was getting hit way sooner than he gets hit with the Eagles. I think it was like yards before contact. It was
the offensive line is terrible.
And that wasn't going to change. Like if they kept him, that was still going to be the situation. So for Barkley, it's like, look, you weren't getting the Eagles Barkley ever, like with the Giants. Like I think it sometimes gets misconstrued that like if they
But he is the NFL MVP, no? I mean,
I don't think he is the NFL MVP. I think he's just a very good player on the Giants. And that's where it's like, it's not like they could have had the Eagles product, the Eagles Barkley, and just said no. Like, again, I think
that's part of the problem, though. Like, you have these talented players, but you're not able to develop them or 100%. Know what you have. That's the problem.
The biggest knock, I mean, I don't disagree. The biggest knock on drafting Barkley, and again, this goes beyond Shane. This was Gettleman. The biggest knock was like, hey, when you draft a running back second overall, the odds are not high that if you're a team with a ton of other holes like the Giants were, that you're going to fix all those holes in time while that guy's still healthy in his prime and looking good. The joke there is that the Giants could have rebuilt like 2 or 3 times over and Barkley's still a machine. So like that defied all the odds. They did the hard part. They couldn't build a team in, now it's been 7 years. So yeah, my thing with Barkley is, look, I would have kept him, but I also like he would have got us another win per season, maybe 2 wins, but a lot more highlights on ESPN, which I don't care about. Like I don't need the 60-yard run when we lose by 10 points. I don't care.
But they chose to build around Daniel Jones instead and pay Daniel Jones $40 million a year. Again, just a poor personnel evaluation. Yeah. And it's just like, when does it ever end? Anyway, let's not digress too much on that. Let's talk about the Commanders now, because they gave the Eagles a little bit of a run there, at least for the first half of that playoff game, and then the Eagles ran away with it. But they came in. Josh Connerly, you mentioned Burns had a good day. He struggled. Connerly did in his first career start at right tackle. that seemed to be their weakness, but the Giants didn't have an answer for Debo Samuel. Scary Terry McLaurin still working off the rust. We saw Bill Jaworski Moret run for a 42-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
They came at the Giants from a defensive standpoint. It's a pretty good Washington team. Can they contend with the Eagles, do you think, for the division?
I think they can because they have Jane Daniels and he's special, and they have some other good things. But they're going to have to play better than they played yesterday. I mean, look, they beat the Giants soundly, but they shot themselves in the foot a lot of times, which won't fly against a team of the Eagles' caliber. You had at the half, you should have been able to put 3 points up, which against a good team like the Eagles, you might miss those 3 points. Dumb play by Jane Daniels, one of his probably his only dumb play of the game. You also had several drops by their wide receivers, which again, it's week 1. It's rusty. So I do think they will get better. But with Jaden Daniels, especially if they tighten up a couple of things, the sky's the limit. And I certainly could see them, winning the division. If, the Eagles beat the Cowboys, and they did it without their best defensive player, but they didn't stomp the Cowboys into the ground. And again, week 1 for them too, but their cornerbacks certainly did not look like anything special. So honestly, look, the Commanders beating the Eagles for the division is certainly within question and wouldn't shock me in the least.
Well, let's talk about that Eagles-Cowboys game since we got a chance to see them in prime time. You mentioned the cornerback struggles. I thought Adoree Jackson got picked on there for the Eagles. Obviously, Jalen Carter getting ejected on the first play for spitting didn't help matters either. I thought both teams were trying to work off some rust. CeeDee Lamb was very uncharacteristic with the drops there.
Yeah.
Let's take the Eagles first, though. They did lose some ammunition. We saw 0 pass rush.
Yeah.
Josh Sweat departed. Milton Williams departed. Uche was injured, and these other guys just weren't able to really apply any kind of pressure. I guess, I felt like the offense remained, offensive line, actually. Dickerson is injured. They got some question marks on the offensive line, surprisingly. But the offense remains intact. I think the defense is where you kind of see some drop off, some concern in the secondary, some pass rush concern there for the Eagles. Are they still an elite team in your opinion?
I still think they're one of the best in the NFC. There's probably an argument now that they're not the best, but I'm never going to make sweeping changes after week 1. I think it's fair to say for CeeDee Lamb, we talked about both teams, rust. Look, if he makes one of those catches, the Eagles most likely lose this game, or at least it's much more likely that they would have lost than what happened. And I think if you're going to be like this elite best team in the NFC, if you were what you were last year, who just dog walked the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, Thursday's game wouldn't have been close. So I do think there's lots of things there that are cause for concern. It's weird to see a Giants player go to another team and struggle, because it's usually doesn't work out that way. So thank you, Adoree, for giving me that. But I think the Eagles are still going to be, one of the better teams in the NFC, are going to be, Super Bowl contenders throughout the season. But there's certainly things there where the wheels could go off. An injury here, an injury there, and they could be in trouble, which you weren't going to say last year.
And Dallas, obviously, the next opponent here for the Big Blue. I mean, they played better than we anticipated, or I think that most people anticipated anyway. Javonte Williams looked like he was a little bit rejuvenated, running tough between the tackles down there near the goal line. Obviously, Pickens is in a contract year, so he's motivated with CeeDee Lamb. They've got some weapons. Ferguson was active. I thought he should have had a couple catches, some pass interference calls there, but Micah Parsons, obviously a huge loss. DeMarcus Lawrence no longer there. They did extend some players I saw with the money that didn't wind up going to Micah Parsons. But what's your outlook for these Dallas Cowboys?
Look, I think they look good. They had some breaks not go their way, and they ended up losing to the Eagles. Granted, again, the Eagles did not have their best defensive player, but ultimately, they were right in there with the defending Super Bowl champions. And I think after the Micah Parsons trade, both of us and lots of other people who watch the NFL and study the NFL thought, hey, there's a good chance this is maybe the fact that he's traded is just because Jerry Jones maybe isn't so stupid. He understands that, maybe this team needs to reboot, and he's going to give him the ammo to do it. The reality is they look competent. they are going to have a lot of ammo over the next 2 years. So my outlook on them over the next 2 years is certainly more bullish than it was. But ultimately, I think you have Dak Prescott, who's a solid quarterback when he's not getting pressured. Towards the end of that game, you did see him start getting some pressure. CD didn't help him out, but also Dak wasn't at his best. I think that they're probably not winning the division, but are they making the playoffs? They made a strong case for it. I know they didn't win. They were playing one of the toughest teams on their schedule. They're going to get to play the Giants twice a year. Look, they're going to be in it till the end, and a ball bounces the right way, and they might be that third NFC East team in the playoffs.
All right, we'll talk about game predictions after this next commercial break. Again, you're tuned into New and Blue, a New York Giants podcast, and it's part of the All Access Football Network. Make sure you keep it locked for all of our podcast shows. We got the QB Huddle that comes out tomorrow on Tuesday. Also, Scouting the League with Neil Stratton and Roderick David, the former NFL scout. They had Jordan Reed from ESPN on last week. Great episode there. If you want to check that out over at allaccessfootball.com. We got the great promo discount code RICVIP, 30% discount code. That includes the 2026 NFL Draft Bible with over 500 scouting reports. And we published the Scout Notebook this morning on the website with 15 prospects from over the weekend that you need to keep an eye on. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back with game predictions. Week number 2, Giants versus Cowboys right after this.
Hey, RIC and a place to be. Rick Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football. And you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day Circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Rick Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody.
All right, back at it again. RIC in the place to be. Rick Serritella with Dan Orlando, breaking it down. New and Blue, a New York Giants podcast. We're here live each and every Monday. So if you're just tuning in, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe for new show alerts. Of course, we've got the All Access Football Daily Show live 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. Your home for real football talk. The QB Huddle coming out tomorrow. Scouting the League podcast on Wednesday. New and Blue here each and every Monday. And we've been breaking it down, chopping it up from that disappointing week 1 performance. The Commanders over the Giants 21-6. I see here that the Dallas Cowboys now come in as a 6-point favorite here on Monday, September the 8th, Dan. Early week prediction here for the Big Blue in week 2.
I think it's light. I think that they're going to win by more than that. I look, my prediction, I'm going to assume Andrew Thomas doesn't play for this because I do think he would give the Giants offense a little bit of a lift, but let's assume he's not ready. My gut says week 3 for him. Look, Russell Wilson's already been named the starter. You're probably going to see a lot more of the same on offense. The defense is probably going to have some good moments, some good drives, but then towards the end of the game, when they're getting no help from the offense, really struggle. You said earlier in the show, I mean, their second best wide receiver is George Pickens. Turpin's no slouch either. They got Ferguson. Their running backs look all right. They're not world beaters, but they're pretty good. I see the Dallas Cowboys putting up 35 points in this game. That's just what that says. Just based off of seeing how bad the Giants did, even when they got opponents in the second and long, which, hey, like that was the goal last week. If you can get the Commanders to second and long, then that pass rush can eat. So barring something like where the Giants really wake up, the Cowboys are going to put up 35. I'm going to say the Giants put up 10. They get their touchdown. If Russell Wilson is pulled at halftime, because if it's more of the same, it's certainly possible. And Jackson Dart goes in, and they don't have tape on him, and he can move, and he keeps his eyes downfield. The Giants put up 14. But either way, the Giants are losing.
Yeah, I could see, Dallas being up 17-3 at halftime. They make the switch to Jackson Dart, and, maybe even the Cowboys even take the gas off the pedal here at the end of the game. But I see a 27-13 type of match. You're right. It's a little light at 6, surprisingly, because I didn't really have high expectations from Dallas, but I don't want to overreact, underreact. I do think the Dallas Cowboys team is much more capable of making explosive plays.
Yep.
That's what really counts at the NFL, when you can make explosive plays. And listen, I mean, like the Giants are a one-dimensional offense. You shut down Malik Neighbors, there's no threat.
There's none. And you look at it, like they didn't even I think they might have thrown a Slayton. He didn't have a catch. He was barely involved. Wan'Dale Robinson had some decent reps, but he can't be your second receiver. You're not going to have success. Ultimately, look, if Andrew Thomas plays, that gives the Giants a little bit of a lift. If Jackson Dart can get in there, he's going to do some things for you. But ultimately, if you're a Giants fan right now, you have to be able to see the offense do something. So what I'm thinking is, if I'm Russell Wilson and I'm coming into this game and I'm just unable to connect on anything and I'm running for my life, I'm in danger of getting sat down. So it's going to be a really tough game to watch if you're a Giants fan. I think the only advantage Giants fans might have, and this right now I would say is a disadvantage, Dallas has the mini bye. So look, they're going to be well rested, and that could be something that hurts the Giants, but Dallas could also come out confident against how they played the Eagles, see the Giants look like trash, and maybe, just maybe, are not as strong coming out the gate as they should be. They've done that in the past with the Giants and then picked up the game a little bit in the second half. So it could be interesting there, but ultimately I just don't see a path logically without Dallas just making a mistake to the Giants having a good day.
Yeah, I think even long week, short week, the Cowboys are a better team.
Yeah.
And
they'd have to sleep on the Giants, look past them, and then sometimes the ball bounces your way when teams do that. But the fact that that's your best path to victory backs up what you said. They're way better.
And I know we disagree with the whole Russell Wilson decision, but I do feel like there are players in the locker room who feel like me when they hear Brian Daboll speak at the podium and say it wasn't even a question.
Yeah.
that Russell Wilson was going to start this game. It's just it's a deflating feeling for me.
It's
And
why it's why I think he caves sooner rather than later. Like, I wasn't shocked that he's not doing it now for week 2, but that's why I could see it anytime from halftime then to like a couple weeks from now, because he doesn't
we're
want
going to see
Yeah.
the debut of Jackson Dart in week 2.
It's
That
coming.
is my prediction.
Yeah.
On that, that's going to be my parting shot. Any other parting shots you want to leave for the people here, Dan?
Yeah, and look, if they're getting blown out, we'll see him in the fourth quarter. You're like, yeah, we'll see him. You're right. I do think we see him on Sunday. Parting shots. Like, if you're a Giants fan, let's give them a couple of weeks to at least see if we get development from these new players, especially the rookies. That can be something that can at least be fun. We are getting Jackson Dart soon. Me and you agree on that. It's just it's a matter of semantics at this point.
Hopefully more Scatterboo too.
More Scatterboo. Again, I thought Scatterboo looked good. He's fun to watch. He's insane. He's a lot of fun. Let's have him not collide with his offensive lineman. But other than that, he's a lot of fun. Can throw a pass block, man. Can really throw a pass block. So, again, if you're a Giants fan, hold on for Dart. Dart at least keeps his eyes downfield when the pressure's coming. So he has the chance of making some plays when things don't work out around him. And look, even if the Giants don't have a record we're excited about at the end of the year, if Dart can get in and be exciting and give you something, then that's something worth watching for. So strap in for Sunday, be prepared to be upset, and maybe it won't hurt so bad. That's what I do sometimes. Yeah, Sunday's not going to be pretty, but maybe it finally gets us to Dart within the next 14 days.
Well, that's why they play the games, Dan,
Yep.
right? On any given Sunday.
Yep.
We'll be back next week to chop it up and break it down. This was New and Blue, a New York Giants podcast. Once again, we're here each and every Monday night, 7 p.m. live Eastern time on your Twitter, X, YouTube, Facebook. Please smash that like button, hit subscribe, share it, tell a friend. Come back next week. We'll do it again. And we're going to take a quick little break here and wrap up the show. Just a reminder, the All Access Football Daily Show airs 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to give you a sneak peek preview of that right now, and we'll catch you next week, everybody. For Dan Orlando, Rick Serritella, and New and Blue, a New York Giants podcast, thank you very much for watching.
Hey, RIC in a place to be. Rick Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world-famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world-famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day Circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic, get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report, published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Rick Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody.